When the police showed up, I felt a strange relief, as if someone had finally taken control of the chaos. Leo and I sat on a bench, holding hands, and for the first time in weeks, I felt not fear, but a tired, fragile hope. I didn't know how it would all end. I didn't know how much strength would be required. But I knew the most important thing. There was no turning back. And that was the beginning. After that day in the park, life seemed to shift into a different mode, neither fast-paced nor slow-paced, but tense, like a string. Leo and I returned to Seattle late that night. He fell asleep in the car, clutching his backpack to his chest, and I drove, barely aware of the road. The highway lights stretched endlessly, and it seemed as if I was driving not home, but through my own fatigue, through months of pain that were suddenly beginning to take shape. The next day, I filed official reports for the theft of the car, for the illegal withdrawal of funds, for financial abuse. The words seemed foreign, legalistic, dry, but behind each of them lay my sleepless nights, my fear for my child, my humiliation, and the feeling of being simply erased from someone else's life. The investigator turned out to be a calm, attentive man of about 50. He didn't look at me with pity, didn't ask unnecessary questions. He simply did his job, and that gave me a strange sense of support. Jonathan was under investigation. His new life fell apart faster than he could believe it. Hannah disappeared almost immediately. First, she stopped answering his calls, then, as I later learned, she went to stay with relatives in another state. The pregnancy story turned out to be a lie, built on fear and manipulation. When I was officially told this, I felt neither gloating nor satisfaction. Only emptiness and fatigue. Betrayal is not compensated for by other people's mistakes. Leo had changed. Not worse, but more mature. He started making simple dinners himself, checking the door was locked, reminding me about my medication. Sometimes I caught myself wanting to tell him, "You shouldn't," but each time I realized he wasn't playing the grown-up, he was just there. And that was more important than any good words. A few weeks later, the lawyer told me Jonathan was willing to negotiate. He was willing to return the car and part of the money if I agreed to a pretrial settlement. I sat for a long time, phone in hand, staring at the wall. Two feelings warred within me, the desire to close this chapter as quickly as possible and the fear of allowing him to control anything again. Leo and I talked about it that evening, sitting on the living room floor. He listened silently, then said he didn't want me to do anything because I was tired. His words struck me astounding. At 11, he understood what it had taken me years to realize. The trial took place after all. I walked there with trembling knees, but my back was straight. Jonathan sat across from me, emaciated, broken, his gaze dull. He barely looked at me. When they read the case details, it felt like they were talking not about my life, but about someone else's, a poorly written script. Theft, fraud, evasion of obligations. The words fell one after another, and with each one, the air inside me grew easier. The court's decision was harsh but fair. The car was to be returned. The money was to be compensated. Child support was to be paid monthly. I felt no triumph, only peace, as if the world had finally said, "You're not crazy. This really was wrong." I sold the car 2 weeks later. As I signed the papers, I realized I felt neither sadness nor regret, only closure. The debt was closed. The chain that had been dragging me down was broken. Recovery was slow. Physically, I recovered faster than emotionally. Sometimes at night, memories, phrases, fragments of letters would come flooding back. Memories. But now I knew this wasn't a return to the past, but a way out of it. Leo started laughing again. At school, he joined a robotics club, bringing home strange constructions and talking about his ideas with such enthusiasm that I caught myself smiling even on the hardest days. Support came from unexpected quarters. Co-workers adjusted their shifts, a neighbor picked up Leo if I was running late. An old friend I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly texted, "I'm here if you need anything." And I realized I wasn't alone. I never had been. One evening, Leo and I were sitting on the balcony, wrapped in blankets. The city hummed below. The sky was clear and calm. He asked if I regretted trying so hard to save my marriage. I thought about it and answered honestly, no. Because that's what made me who I am today. Because I know what it's like to lose everything and not break down. A few months passed. Life wasn't a fairy tale, but it became real. I started making plans again. Not grandiose ones, but practical ones. Professional development courses, a short vacation, maybe moving closer to the water. Leo dreamed of summer camp and his own laptop. We learned to dream anew, without regard for other people's decisions. The letter from Jonathan's lawyer arrived at the end of autumn. He had fulfilled all his obligations. The money was coming in regularly. I put the letter in a folder and closed it. Not with hatred, but with a period. Sometimes I think about that morning when I opened that very email. If I could say something to myself then, I would say, "You will survive. You will laugh. You will be stronger than you think. And there will be someone by your side who is worth going on for." Leo and I weren't the same. We became ourselves. And that was enough to allow us to look to the future without fear.